Let's set the stage. Maple Creek Estates, a gated fortress of manicured mediocrity. Every house is some shade of oatmeal whisper, every lawn trimmed like it's competing for Olympic symmetry. The HOA motto might as well be, "Thou shalt not stand out." And into this dystopia of decorum, I moved. I'm not saying I'm a rebel. I pay my dues, I mow my lawn, but I also believe a home should have character, a little flair. Maybe a garden gnome and sunglasses. Maybe, hear me out, a scarecrow in a Hawaiian shirt named Bartholomew who looks like he DJs for parrots. Bartholomew wasn't scary. He was cheerful, wholesome, a guardian of tomatoes and good vibes. I stuck him in the garden, gave him a welcome drink, plastic lemonade cup, obviously, and let him watch over my petunias. The neighbors waved, the mailman smiled, even the Amazon driver gave him a fist bump. But not everyone appreciated his charisma. From across the street, Carol watched. Carol, the HOA president. Carol, whose personality could be described as PDF of the rules. She had a visor, a clipboard, and an aura of beige righteousness. To her, Bartholomew wasn't decoration, he was defiance, a threat to neighborhood cohesion, a fabric softener ad gone rogue. For 3 glorious days, Bartholomew stood tall, basking in the suburban sun. Until one fateful morning, I came outside to find a note taped to my mailbox, written in calligraphy-level cursive that screamed, "Passive-aggressive Christmas card." Dear resident, your lawn display does not comply with Article 7, Section B, Temporary Structures. Kindly remove the item within 48 hours to avoid penalties. Penalties for a straw man in a floral shirt. Imagine explaining that to a judge. I laughed, tossed the letter, and went about my day. But what I didn't realize was that this wasn't just about a scarecrow. This was the beginning of a war. Because when the HOA says remove your scarecrow, they're not just coming for the straw, they're coming for your soul.
Carol wasn't your average neighbor. She was a suburban sentinel, the kind of person who could recite the HOA bylaws like Shakespearean monologues. Her sneakers were white, her lipstick neutral, and her moral compass pointed directly at control. She marched around Maple Creek like a general inspecting troops. If your mailbox leaned 2 degrees left, violation. If your curtains clashed with your shutters, violation. If your grass exceeded 2 inches, congratulations, you've angered the lawn gods. So when Carol saw Bartholomew's goofy grin and floral fashion statement, she didn't see joy, she saw anarchy, a straw insurgent mocking the sanctity of beige. I remember the first confrontation like a courtroom drama. She appeared in my driveway, clutching her HOA binder like a holy relic. "Good morning," she began, the tone so tight it could slice diamonds. "Morning," I smiled, sipping coffee. "I couldn't help but notice your installation." "Oh, Bartholomew. Yeah, he's great with crows." She squinted. "It's not regulation. He's made of straw, Carol. He's literally biodegradable." "That's not the point. It disrupts visual cohesion." Visual cohesion? I looked around. Identical beige boxes stretching down the street like copy-paste architecture. Cohesion wasn't the problem. Boredom was. I tried reason. I tried humor. Nothing cracked her. Carol left muttering about bylaws, and I thought, okay, maybe she'll calm down. Spoiler, she didn't. 2 days later, I came home to find Bartholomew still smiling and a bright yellow envelope nailed to my porch. Inside, a formal violation. Failure to comply. Fine, $50 per day. $50 per day for whimsy. I called the HOA office. They confirmed it. It's a visual disruption. He's not within theme. Theme? What theme? Beige? That's when I realized Carol wasn't just a neighbor, she was a boss fight. And if I wanted to survive Maple Creek, I need to level up my strategy and my pettiness. Because you can take the straw out of the scarecrow, but you can't take the fight out of the homeowner.
When I got that fine, something in me snapped. Not in a flip a table way, but in a read every word of the HOA handbook like it's the Dead Sea Scrolls way. I spent the night highlighting, annotating, and whispering phrases like, Section 4B, you son of a clause. The document was dense, written in bureaucratese designed to crush hope. It banned unsightly installations, non-conforming structures, and, my favorite, artistic displays exceeding acceptable whimsy. Yes, whimsy. That's a measurable offense here. But somewhere around page 37, I found it. A loophole. They could find me for structures, but they couldn't find me for people. Living beings weren't decorations. If I wanted a clown juggling pine cones on my lawn, that was weird, but legal. Cue my petty epiphany. If a scarecrow's a structure, but a human isn't, then what if the decoration lives? What if Bartholomew evolves? The next morning, I stared at my garden, scheming like a Bond villain. I didn't need a scarecrow. I needed a scarecrew. Silent, compliant, and artistically intimidating. I grabbed my phone and drafted an ad so specific it could only attract chaos. Actors wanted for avant-garde suburban art project. Must stand motionless. Must enjoy irony. Paid hourly, snacks included. Within hours, I got replies. One from Julian, a theater grad who described himself as a vessel for absurdity. The other from Chloe, a mime, dancer, and self-proclaimed queen of stillness. We hopped on a call. I explained the mission. I want to replace a scarecrow with live performers who just stand there. Silence. Then laughter. Then agreement. They didn't just want to do it, they lived for it. I hung up, staring at the HOA letter, grinning. They wanted conformity, I'd give them conceptual art. Beige couldn't handle this level of creativity, because when they hit you with a fine, don't fight back with anger, fight back with art school.
Julian and Chloe arrived the next day. If Bartholomew was tacky, these two were high culture. Julian wore all black, carried a sketchbook, and quoted Kierkegaard like a TikTok philosopher. Chloe arrived in bright stripes, waving like she was auditioning for an invisible circus. We planned the installation. I called it Living Composition Number 1, Suburban Stillness. Sounded fancy, confusing, perfect. Julian's role, the silver thinker, painted head-to-toe metallic, frozen in eternal contemplation of a garden gnome. Chloe's role, the mime of moderation, trapped in an invisible HOA box, hands pressed against unseen walls of regulation. I printed the HOA bylaws, highlighted the relevant clauses, and taped them to my fridge like trophies. As long as they didn't block sidewalks or create sound, they were legal. But performance art needs a stage, so I hired Gus, local handyman, part-time philosopher, full-time legend. "You want 2 platforms for human statues?" he asked, squinting. "Exactly. Petty or practical?" "Petty. Deeply petty." He grinned. "Discount for vengeance." By noon, Gus had built 2 flawless pedestals, painted the exact HOA-approved shade of gray. I admired them like a Bond villain admiring a laser beam. The plan? At dawn, Bartholomew would retire. In his place, 2 silent, dramatic figures embodying the chaos Carol couldn't comprehend. That night, I slept like a man awaiting Judgment Day, with popcorn. And when morning came, Maple Creek woke not to a violation, but a vibe shift.
At 8 a.m. sharp, I unveiled Maple Creek's newest residence. Julian took position left, deep in thought, chin on fist, eyes fixed on eternity. Chloe faced forward, hands pressed against invisible walls, silently screaming in French mime energy. The effect was stunning. Pedestrians slowed, joggers tripped, kids whispered, "Are they robots?" Even Bob, Carol's eternally silent husband, paused mid-yard work and muttered, "Huh." High praise. I sipped my coffee, watching from the porch like a proud director. Then, curtains parted. Carol emerged. She froze mid-step, visor glinting. Her jaw dropped. Two metallic figures stood where Bartholomew once reigned. Not straw, not structure, people. She marched across the street. "What is this?" "Art," I said. "This is harassment." "Nope. Performance. Freedom of expression." "They can't stand there forever." "Actually, they can. $25 an hour. Great posture." Carol sputtered, cheeks inflating like a malfunctioning pressure cooker. This is ridiculous." "Ridiculously compliant," I corrected. She stormed off, phone in hand. I knew that look. She was summoning reinforcements. 10 minutes later, police. Two officers, confusion written all over their faces. Carol pointed. "Arrest them." "Ma'am, they're just standing there." "They're mocking me." "Technically, that's not illegal." They left. Carol fumed. I waved. Chloe mimed a heart. Round 1, homeowners 1, HOA overlord 0. But Carol wasn't retreating. She was regrouping.
The next few days were pure suburban Cold War. Carol retaliated with every petty tactic in the handbook. Sprinklers set to biblical flood, motion lights aimed like interrogation beams, Barry Manilow blaring from her Alexa 24/7, psychological warfare in smooth jazz form. Julian and Chloe? Unbothered. Professionals. Chloe mimed rowing a boat during sprinkler attacks. Julian adopted a new pose, man enduring beige rain. Neighbors started watching from porches with popcorn. One kid brought lemonade. Carol's fury grew with every chuckle. Then came the petition. Stop the nuisance. She collected signatures. 12 total. Half illegible. One from her cot. I checked. The HOA board scheduled an emergency decorum meeting. I attended, wearing a beret. "Ladies and gentlemen," I began, "we are gathered here not to condemn art, but to celebrate innovation in Scarecrow replacement." Silence. Crickets. Carol turned purple. They voted 3-2. Statues stay. Victory tasted like sweet, sweet irony. But petty victories aren't just won, they're performed. And mine was about to go viral. Day 5. Local jogger posts a video. "These guys have been standing still all week." Caption, "Only in Maple Creek. 500 KUs overnight." News van rolls in. Reporter Tiffany, pastel blazer, intrigued smile. "So, what's happening here?" I grin. It's a commentary on individuality versus conformity. Also, Carol hates fun. Interview airs. Internet loses it. Comments flood in. This is art. This is petty genius. Protect Julian and Chloe at all costs. Carol shuts blinds. Gus drops by with donuts. "You're famous," he says. Even the HOA can't touch viral glory. They retreat into silence, licking their bureaucratic wounds. But silence can be deceiving, because behind those beige curtains, Carol was drafting her endgame.
Certified letter. Legal jargon thicker than maple syrup. Cease and desist, defamation via dramatization. Carol was claiming emotional distress from looking at my lawn. I laughed so hard I nearly framed it. But lawyers aren't cheap. I needed one move, one finale so grand they'd drop the fight forever. So I did what any rational person would do. I doubled down. I called Julian, Chloe, Gus. We're going full gnome. Gus, pointy hats? Pointy everything. 2 days later, 7 actors in gnome suits marched across my yard in slow motion to O Fortuna. They lined up, turned, and pointed at Carol's window in perfect unison. The neighborhood erupted, phones out, kids cheering. Carol froze in horror, blinds quivering. Next morning, cease and desist withdrawn. HOA silent. Beige Empire crumbled. And thus ended the Great Scarecrow War, not with a bang, but with synchronized no-marie.
The statues retired, the sprinklers calmed, carols stopped glaring, mostly. Maple Creek exhaled. Neighbors started adding color. A pink flamingo here, a mosaic mailbox there. Even Bob, quiet, loyal Bob, waved one day and said, "The gnomes were funny." That's suburban forgiveness right there. Bartholomew's gone, but in his place stands one small gnome. Tasteful, neutral, eternally smirking. The perfect balance between chaos and compliance. Because when the HOA brings the rules, you bring the loopholes. And when life gives you Karens, give them performance art.
Weeks turned into months, and the legend grew. Maple Creek became that neighborhood, the one from the memes. People drove by to see where it happened. Julian opened a studio. Chloe taught mime to kids. Gus got so many petty construction gigs, he printed business cards. Vengeance Carpentry. As for me, I learned a lesson. Not about lawns or bylaws, but about creativity. Sometimes rebellion doesn't roar. It poses dramatically on a pedestal. Bartholomew would have been proud. So next time someone tells you your joy is non-compliant, remember, rules exist to be read, and occasionally rewritten in silver body paint.